I was a huge fan of Transformers as a kid, so that's where it all started for me. Like my first introduction was the actual movie, the Transformers movie back in the '80s, and VHS tape. Oh my God, I remember watching it at a friend's house, and I remember just the colors drew me in. But that was like my first real intro to Transformers, and then after that, it was Rise of the Beast, which I want to say was early 2000s that I started to get into it, and I just remember the impact it had on me. It was something new and different. I remember the CGI was different, you know, in terms of a cartoon, and I was kind of like transitioning from my boy phase to my teenage years, so I kind of disappeared for a little bit, and then Michael Bay brought me back with 2007's, you know, Bayverse start of Transformers One, and that's when I was like, whoa, like what is this? And that's where I really got like enthralled and watched every single movie afterwards. So I'm part of the Bayverse fan club and Nightverse Bumblebee. When I read the actual script, it was hard to say no. You know, I had like ideas and thoughts that I wanted to implement, characters that I actually love on screen, or at least in the cartoons that I wanted to bring to on screen. And I just started to like, you know, really dive into it, and that's how the Transformers came about. Paramount had asked me, and yeah, they felt like I was probably the right guy for it and had a certain amount of knowledge, but also heart, you know, in terms of like what I want to bring to the table with the characters. So, yeah. Unicron is in our film, and so the Unicron graphic novel was really a big, huge influence on what I wanted to bring to the franchise. He is a character that was always kind of looming in the background in the Bayesverse, you know, in terms of the movies that he created, and we never got to really see the live action version of Unicron, and that was huge. So with the colors and how I wanted to implement this sort of godlike figure, all really came from the graphic novel and the old 1986 cartoon movie. So the design is kind of like based off of that, as well as even some of the score and music cues we took from the 1986 cartoon movie, just to sort of create his own and unique sound. So I was very influenced by the nostalgia and what was done in the past to create the Transformers that we see today. With Anthony Ramos, he was the first one to be casted for the film, and I was like, wow, this dude's a really like physical actor. Like the way he uses his traits, he has a unique charm and a level of vulnerability that's really hard to find. And he's like a Swiss Army knife. And so we brought him into the mix. And so I remember talking to Anthony one day and saying, hey, one of my top actresses, like the top actress I want, her name is Dominique Fishback. And he goes, me and Dominique go way back. Like we're really close friends. And I was like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, we're both from Brooklyn, this, that, and the other. So they already had a connection. I was like, this might be perfect. And so when we actually had the chemistry read with these two together, it was through via Zoom. It was on the internet. And I was really worried. I remember being like, are they going to be able to vibe off each other? There's always that lag with internet connection. They're probably not going to be able to hear each other. And with that, and there was totally lag, disconnecting the whole nine, they still had this energy that just was popping off of a Zoom recording. I'm like, whoa, this is insane. They work perfectly together. It's like they just mesh, and they both brought this sort of edge to this, like this Brooklyn personality to it, but as well as they were just fun to watch. And so I'm glad that worked out. But Anthony knew her beforehand, and that helped out a lot. Every project that I basically say yes to and or create or get involved with has a piece of me in it. Like if I don't feel that at all, I probably won't do the project. Like I first read the script and I go, there goes the story. Then I go, what do I have to say? And is there me on the table? And if not, how can I incorporate myself? And so I really pull from personal things around me that I'm either going through or transitioning in with life, some part of my childhood, anything with my wife and family. Like I'll incorporate it inside the film and kind of make the film a part of me. And so it becomes very personal. And I think you need that, especially with big films like this, where the scope is so huge and long hours on set, and you could be in post for a year trying to create this. You need that motivation throughout to say, okay, I am saying something. Okay, there is a part of me on this tape. I think people are really going to enjoy this. I want to connect to my audience, and I want them to feel like I left everything out there. And so I have to kind of find those elements that I can bring to every project and every character. The movie's Transformers Rise of the Beast technically is Transformers like 7, right? And so you're always trying to find unique ways for the humans to interact and or meet the robots. And so in this particular case, I thought it'd be interesting if we flipped it on his head a bit, right? And so you have Noah, this character who thinks he's about to steal a car, and turns out he's getting stolen by the car. He goes on this wild cop car chase through New York City, which was really hard to shoot by the way, in terms of a car chase sequence. And while he's going through this chase, he's starting to build a relationship with the car, even though he hasn't seen or met Mirage, the robot, yet. And so if you take a look at that sequence, we're really diving into their relationship and building this sort of unique back and forth as they're talking to each other, even though he's never even heard Mirage, aka Pete Davidson's voice yet. And so he's interacting just through the driving itself. So we get a glimpse of Mirage as a character with his driving technique. He rides fast. He's a little bit of a showboat. The way he turns corners. He's a risk taker. You know, you can see he's kind of like the rebellious Autobot, so to speak. We really settled on Mirage and Pete Davidson, who actually ad-libbed a lot, some of his character moments. And so they built a bond over just kind of how goofy and crazy Mirage is, you know, right off the rip. So you could kind of like him. There's like this warm feeling. You're like, I do want to go on an adventure with this guy. What I think is interesting about Noah's journey is that in every Transformers movie, Optimus Prime and a lead human being are always close. They're usually close, and this is the first time in the film where they're actually bumping heads at the very top of the film. They're not friends just yet. Optimus has one agenda, and that's to get his people, the Autobots, home to continue this war that they have on planet Cybertron with the Decepticons. And so Noah is not in his peripheral. It's not his goal right now. And so that kind of combats with Prime's goal to try to just get his people back to Cybertron. Noah's goal to try to protect his sort of like bumps heads. And so you see these two characters who are trying to figure things out along this journey. Will they accept each other? Will they become friends? And that becomes really the heartbeat of the film, is whether or not Prime and Noah will ever work together. Will we break that line, that barrier from, you know, human beings and what we're considering these aliens?